Welcome to the kingdom. I'm Chris, and this is Good Enough Gaming. Howdy folks, and welcome to this quick review video that I made. A little while ago, about a couple weeks ago, I placed an order for some movement trays from Mini Wargaming's Forge, and they finally arrived today. So I thought I'd put them out here, take them for a bit of a spin, so to speak, and let you know how they turn out, because I imagine, like many of you, you've got some circular guys that need square bases now to play either Warhammer Old World or to play one-page rules regiments or Kings of War or anything of that nature. So I ordered these a while ago, and I thought I'd compare them with an older MDF base that I have here. Now I can't remember if I got this from Litco or from Phalanx Consortium, but either way, this is what I've been using up until now. So I know this is a 6-person rank, but I'll just measure it for the 5. We still work here. So as far as looking at the basics, they're both very sturdy. This one, of course, has, the circles are a lot closer together, whereas this one, you can see there is a very distinct definition between them. So this one might give me a few more problems when I'm placing models that have, very wide poses or arms sticking out. That might run into a few problems, but depth-wise, they're about the same. Width, they're just a little bit different because of that extra space that's missing on these ones. And same thing with length. Now, obviously, taking that not into account. But if I put this across and line up with the circles there, you can see there's a bit of a gap. But that's not a huge difference. As far as putting the models in, for the most part, they fit in pretty well. These ones sometimes are a little bit more snug. If you don't have GW bases, you might buy ones from, say, Amazon, and sometimes around the rim here, they'll have a burr. Like this one's got one, you're not gonna be able to see it very well. Right there. Tiny, tiny little burr right there. And that makes this a little trickier to fit in because any burrs on the base will prevent it from sliding in nicely. Now, once it's in there, that thing's never coming out. You have to be worried that when you're pulling it out, you don't break it. So I don't have that problem on these. Since there's not as much surface area being contacted here, you drop them in, they fit in nice and easy. Of course, you can always get a X-Acto knife or box cutter or something and trim off those burrs, but it's kind of a pain when you're trying to remove casualties and you gotta kind of yank at them a little bit. So I suppose that's one positive. As far as touching them up, now I've tried basing these before, and it works okay, as long as you have like a decent kind of base paint or cover it with some glue or something like that. You can usually get some kind of sand, flocking, or something on these to make it blend in pretty well. The surface of these looks like it might be all right. Here, you're gonna need some kind of a putty or something, maybe a really thick base paint to fill in those 3D print lines. But with such little space showing, I'm not sure I would actually take the time to put terrain over top of that or base it. I don't know, that seems like that'll be up to personal preference. So let's see how well these things in. We'll speed it up a little bit and let's see how well I can fit in a whole bunch of these guys. All right, so we've got our 20 dwarves in here, and now that they're in there, some of them are a bit looser than others, and I did run into some problems, like this guy here, I gotta turn him. All right, so we got our dwarves in here, except that guy. That's one of the problems that I thought I'd run into, and I've heard from a lot of other people saying the same thing, is that models since the Old World was originally out, since it was Warhammer Fantasy Battles, they've gotten a lot fluffier. When I played my High Elves, they stood up super, super straight. Whereas these guys now, they got arms and limbs and stuff sticking out. And so it will take a little bit of finagling to get the pieces to fit nicely. I remember I had a Chaos Army where each guy was numbered because I had to put them in a very specific position, otherwise they wouldn't all fit. For the most part though, this was very quick to get them in there. They pull in and out fairly easily. This guy's causing a major problem, so we may have to swap him out with him. There, that might work a little better. The only downside is you have all the guys of the same pose on the side. Anyways, so I think it works really well. They're nice and easy to use. They don't grip. Like if this thing's bonked, stuff is gonna fall out. Whereas the wooden one here had a little bit more grip to it. But I definitely think these are super effective. One thing I did want to point out though is cost difference. So one of these trays, and Litco does make some without this little division part in the middle where the circles actually combine together. It looks exactly like this. So two very significant differences. One is cost, whereas a Litco 5 or 10-man base costs about, I think it's $7.99, $6.99, whereas this one was $3. It was about half the cost. Now there is the shipping thing that comes in, but I was able to purchase a whole bunch of these and the total shipping came out to I think $9. So I got, I think it was 5 of the 20-man trays, 5 of these trays, 5 of these trays, and then a couple loose ones here for heroes, and the whole thing still came to about $50, $60. Whereas the shipping on Litco is a little bit more expensive unless you spend $100. And when you're buying these things at 7 or 8, yeah, you can hit that 100 pretty quick, but you're still getting fewer than here. So if you can find these without having to pay the shipping, that might be great. If you can find someone who's offloading some of these wooden ones, I think both of them work. But I think 3D printing has provided us a very useful alternative. So I'm super happy with these as is. I'll have to let you guys know as I continue to work on the project how things come out once I start basing and trying to fit all these things in one place. The only other difference I thought I would mention is if anyone has bought these before, you know they actually come in 2 pieces. That you have the under board here and then you have the circular board that goes on top. You actually have to glue them together. And while that's not a huge problem, I mean, there's always a chance that you might glue it a little off, but the point is it comes in 2 pieces. And this top one, when it's by itself, is incredibly fragile. Whereas these things are printed as one. So they're very solid. So, I think personally for me, future purchases are gonna be 3D printed ones, or if I ever get my hands on my own FDM 3D printer, I'll start making them myself. But either way, for those of you who are putting together your Warhammer armies for Old World or for one-page rules regiments, and you need some tray converters, I think these are fantastic. Whether you get them from Mini Wargaming Forge or Etsy or someone else, I think these are excellent tools. That way you can base them on spaces like this to continue to play with Age of Sigmar or play Age of Fantasy or what have you, and then drop them in rather than have to rebase the specific model square, because these allow you to go from circle to square, but there's nothing that allows you to go very easily from square to circle. So the rank tray works there. One of these, pretty well for these. It fits nicely, although when you're moving it on the table, if you pick it up, this guy is kind of likely to fall out a bit. And then I got a single just to test out for individual heroes. Although I think most of the time I'm going to be putting a hero inside of a unit. And there's a chance, yeah, that's what I was worried about. This guy's not going to fit in here. Well, there it goes. Little finagling, but he seems to work. So, what this means is now I got to finish painting the rest of my dwarves, because now I got trays to put them in. So until next time, keep your dice on the table. And while these things might not be perfect, I think they're good enough.